want to talk a little bit about why we named these the accountability dialogues and what this means for our communities. We named these the accountability dialogues because we want to center both truth and accountability as critical for our communities. We know that change is coming for the child welfare system, and we want to make sure that child and adult survivors, particularly Indigenous, Black, and Latina survivors, are heard, and their experiences and needs are centered and accounted for. We want to make sure that we accomplish these through these conversations, and we want to ensure that we are amplifying survivors' voices and that we are engaged in co-creating policy that is led by survivors and makes sense for our communities. So with that, I have the incredible pleasure of introducing our amazing moderator, Isa Walda-Georges, to take us through the day.
Thank you, Karma. Really appreciate that. Good afternoon, everyone. It is so wonderful to see you all here today. My name is Isa Walda-Georges, and I have the honor of being the moderator for this series called the Advocates Dialogue. You are in for a powerful experience, so we are so glad you're here. As I said, my name is Isa. I use she, her, and hers pronouns. I'm the executive director of an organization called the Center for Hope and Healing, who does sexual violence intervention and prevention. We work north of Boston. I've done child welfare and domestic violence work for about 20 years of my career. I really started when I was so young. And I was an advocate, a domestic violence advocate in child welfare. And ultimately, I became the assistant commissioner for practice and policy in Massachusetts child welfare. I'm also a member of the National Advisory Committee of the Quality Improvement Center. I'm a trainer and a coach, and honored to be in all of those roles. What you don't know about me, and you won't read in my bio, is that I'm also a survivor. I was a kid who witnessed violence at home and a child who experienced sexual abuse. My family has been involved with the child welfare system, and I've been a kinship placement and a legal guardian for my nephew. So I've been on both sides of the table, as a policymaker, as an advocate, as a helper, and as a survivor. As you all may know, it's Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And these dialogues are about understanding and amplifying the voice of domestic violence survivors, especially those who are involved with child protection, and making change, not just small change, not tinkering with the margins. This is about bold, transformational change, about public child welfare in this country. We know that this is a system that is about 85 years old. Right? The child welfare budget in our country is an estimated $10 billion. If you include state and local funding, it jumps up to around $30 billion. So this large and powerful system also exists in a country such as ours that is understanding more and more every day that racism and inequities have shaped our very foundations. They're baked into everything we do, including our child welfare system. The American Journal of Public Health reports that 53% of all Black children will experience a child abuse or neglect investigation before their 18th birthday. So domestic violence survivors, especially BIPOC survivors, experience the double impact of sexism and racism in this system, and colonialism for Indigenous communities. Most survivors who get involved with systems don't tell their true stories. That is why it's an incredibly courageous thing that we are all witnessing today as well, right? The fear says, don't say anything about what's happening. Just do what they say and it won't get worse. But it often does. Today, we have a rare opportunity to hear the truth. We'll learn about the real experiences of violence from abusers and from a system they wanted and needed help from. So our job today is just to listen. As was said at the beginning, and if you came late and did not see, there will be no chat function. This is not a Q&A type of event. So I want to encourage you to listen, to get comfortable, sit in your chairs, get water, whatever you need to do to be prepared to focus and to listen. Jot down your notes and ideas and words that capture your emotions, because emotions will happen today. Remember your own healing practices, breathing, stretching. Again, there will be no chat function and no Q&A. So with that, it's my pleasure to introduce you to Patrice Lucas, who I recently met and already am a major fan of. She's a facilitator and the person you'll be seeing most facilitating the survivor panel today.
Thank you, Isa, for the warm introduction, and the rest of the team for framing our dialogue today. We're going to take a few minutes, I think, to have the rest of the panelists join me on the screen and to be spotlighted. So today I am joined by Selena, Charlene, Jay, Yolanda, and Teresa, mothers whose families are survivors of not only domestic violence, but as they have shared with me, the child welfare system. They are lending their voices and their collective stories that span over 20 years and multiple states to lead policy change. My goal in this time is to amplify their voices, our 5 survivors, and who will share a more personal, detailed introduction of themselves. So I'm going to ask them, who are they today and where they are at in the child welfare system? And Charlene, if you could start us off today, who are you and where are you now?
Thank you, Patrice. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Charlene Nicholson, and I am a domestic violence survivor and also a survivor of the child welfare system in New York City. I'm also the named plaintiff in the class action lawsuit Nicholson versus Williams, which happened 2.2 decades ago, and we're still here today. I get the opportunity to speak nationally to help domestic violence and to advocate for children in the system. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Charlene. Selena, would you like to go next and introduce yourself today? Who are you and where are you now?
Hi, my name is Selena Hernandez. I am a survivor of domestic violence and sexual assault and of the child welfare system. And I am also a proud mother and a parent advocate.
Thank you. Teresa, would you like to go next and introduce yourself? Who are you and where you're now?
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. Bonjour. Beniji Wang Nibiakwe Indigenous. My birth name is Teresa Nord. I am a survivor of domestic violence, as well as the child welfare system and the criminal justice system. I am a mother, proud mother of 2 young, beautiful girls. And I'm also a parent advocate at the Equa Law Center in Minneapolis and a national speaker on the intersections of domestic violence and child welfare.
Thank you. Jay, would you share with us now, introducing yourself? Thank you.
Yes, my name is Jamala Story. You can call me Jay. I am a survivor of domestic violence and child welfare system. I'm a proud mother of 7 children, and we're currently homeless.
Thank you for sharing. Yolanda, will you share with us now?
Hello, my name is Yolanda Walter. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, my name is Yolanda Walter Georges. I'm also a survivor of domestic violence, child welfare system, and sexual assault. I have 3 beautiful children, and I'm still trying to heal from my trauma.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies, for sharing. I'm going to circle back to Charlene. I want to go back for you to share, all of you, to share a little bit more of your backstory. But as I understand it, Charlene, your initial encounter with the child welfare system happened 22 years ago in 1999, and it stemmed from domestic violence. I want you to share your backstory, but I also have to ask, was the domestic violence ever handled? Did you receive support to heal from some of that?
So yes, my story started in January 1999 when I was assaulted, abused by my child's father. I suffered, I was bleeding profusely, so I really needed help. I was bleeding from the head, found out I had a broken arm and fractured ribs. So I sought help. I called 911 and the team responded to take care of me. I went into a hospital for the treatment and left my neighbor to take care of my younger kids, who was 9 months old and 5 years old at the time. The next thing I know, I got up in the hospital, said I had a phone call, and it was the child welfare system on the phone saying that they have my children in custody, and if I wanted to see them, I would have to appear in court. Yes, I had all these injuries, and I had to deal with the child welfare system, which also include the foster care system. I became homeless, and never once did I get the opportunity to focus on my healing for domestic violence, because I became homeless and I had a broken arm and I had my kids taken away, and it was all about my children then and getting help for them, which no one provided. No one thought about that. They thinking the best thing of help is to take the children from me and nothing for me, nothing to help me get my family back together. And it saddens me that after 22 years, we're still having this discussion around the child welfare system and the domestic violence that women encounter and how the system treats us. Instead of helping us, they accuse us and do nothing to help. All we need is help and support.
Wow, thank you. Thank you, Charlene, for sharing. Teresa, would you be willing to share more of your backstory next and kind of piggyback off on some of the things even Charlene shared with us already?
Yeah, absolutely. For myself, in 2014, I was facing a drug charge for possession, and I had spent a few days in jail. And during that time, I put my daughter in the care of her grandmother. And unfortunately, her grandmother didn't contact the school to let them know what was happening. So they really, all the school knew was that they had a missing child and a missing mom. And when I got out of jail after almost 7 days, I contacted the school to let them know what had happened and told them the truth about why I was in jail. And I believe that is when the school had flagged child protection. That was in September of 2014. And by January of 2015, I was contacted by child protection. And the woman on the other end of the phone basically said that she needed to do a family assessment within 24 hours. And that at the end of the call, she had suggested I go and take a urine analysis, but didn't tell me why. So I agreed to meet the woman. And when I did, I met her at the campus of the college that I was going to with my daughter. And she asked me a ton of questions about, how I was going to get my daughter, to school on time, to school every day. She really wasn't paying any attention to the reasons, why my daughter had missed the school time that she had. She wasn't taking into account, her health needs and nor my addiction issues. And she did get the urine analysis test back a couple days later, and then she came to visit me in my home. And she told me that she didn't feel that there was a need to remove my child from my care at that time. However, almost in the same breath, she told me that if I didn't agree to go and take another urine analysis or a hair follicle test, that she was going to remove my daughter. And so, of course, I complied. And a couple of short weeks after that, my daughter had told me that she had been molested by a close family friend. And the CPS worker just happened to call, and I told her what had happened. And I told her I was going to go to the police station and report it. And she asked me if she wanted me, or if I wanted her to come with me as a form of support. And, you know, of course I said yes. And so while I was at the police station filing the report, she proceeded to give me a mouth swab to test for more drugs. And unfortunately, the test did come back positive. And so she immediately started the proceedings to remove my daughter. She told me that at that time, she felt like my daughter was in imminent harm and danger, and she removed her from my care. From that point, things just kind of spiraled out of control. If there was ever a time in my life that I wanted to die, it would have been then. I really truly felt like my heart was being ripped out of my chest because, you know, my daughter was just ripped out of my care. You know, she didn't offer any services, any resources. You know, she didn't even ask if I was Native American. And so therefore the ICWA law did not apply to my case. And I wasn't given any culturally specific programming or suggestions of treatment or anything like that. You know, and then I was made to do this absolutely daunting task of having visitations with my daughter where she was 60 miles away from me. I had to go full time to school and then rush to take a urine analysis and then drive 60 miles during rush hour traffic. And I would be pulling off the off ramp and calling her, crying and saying, I'm almost there. I'm almost there. And she said, if you're more than 15 minutes late, you cannot see your daughter. And I would be pulling into the parking lot at 4:15 and watching them ushering my daughter to the car as quickly as possible and telling her that she couldn't see me because I was more than 15 minutes late and I was there at 4:16. And I would be screaming and crying, please, please let me see my daughter. And they refused.
Thank you, Teresa. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. And I hear the emotion. I see it. It's present today. It all comes back. Thank you so much for sharing. Selena, would you share more of your story with us now?
Yes.
Thank you.
In 2015, at the beginning of my senior year, I began to seek help to end an abusive relationship that I was in with the father of my son. And at the time, I was a month away from being 18. And so I sought help with my school social worker at the time. And I was extremely afraid for my life. And this plan was to, we've created a plan that's called an exit plan, which was to relocate me to a DV shelter called Sarah's Inn. And so unfortunately, the next day I couldn't attend school because the father of my son had showed up at home. And I was extremely afraid because he was abusive mentally, physically, and sexually. And he had killed our family dog as a threat to me. And so I didn't show up to school that day. And so my school social worker got worried and she ended up calling DCFS saying that there was a minor and her child in danger. And so that night, a DCFS caseworker showed up at the home that we were staying in with the father of my son. And he said to me, get your stuff, you're coming with me. And I remember when I saw him, I felt relief because I felt as if he was there to rescue me. And so I didn't question him. I went with him. And when I asked him where we were going, he said we were going to my mom's house, which was, it was extremely small. It was an apartment, it was an attic, and there was no livable space for us. And so, but I went with him. And when we went to my parents' house, the caseworker had sat down with my parents and started to discuss everything that I went through. And I did not agree with him discussing the details of what I went through, especially when it came to the sexual assault. When he started telling my mom the details, and my dad was there as well, I remember in my heart, I began to, like, I felt naked, and I felt as if someone had just taken something from me personal, because they did not know those details. And I was not ready to share those details because I was still healing at the time. And so I felt betrayed. And right then and there, I knew that I was not being helped. And so then what happened was next was that a second caseworker had to come back the next day because my parents didn't speak English. So they got someone that spoke Spanish. And when this person came, he started to tell my mom again the details of my case. And then he went on and told my mom that you should not let your daughter date anyone ever again. And I remember that when he said that, my heart shattered, because I felt like, first of all, that's none of your business. And second of all, that's not something that I am worried about or even thinking about at this moment. I was offended, but I could not say anything at the time. And so when he said that, I remember that he went down this list. He had, it was a chart, and it seemed like the two caseworkers that had only came to fill out their charts. And as soon as they finished, they didn't even let me, they didn't answer none of my questions. So they just came and did their chart and left. And so when I asked the second caseworker what was going to happen next, he told me that he was going to come a week later. And so he never showed up a week later. And as a matter of fact, he was doing work, I guess, behind the scenes, investigating the daycare, the doctor's office, which, it's not a problem because I had nothing to hide. And then after that, he didn't come back. And a month later, I happened to turn 18. And that's when I received a letter in the mail saying that I was indicated for neglect. And when I had called this caseworker to ask him, hey, what is this letter? What's going to happen after this? I had so many questions and I was so afraid. And when I reached out to him, he told me that he could not help me, and that everything that I needed to know was in that letter. But the letter really didn't have much to say. And so the instructions on the other was on the form, I guess. But other than that, I was on my own, and I was left to defend myself.
Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you. Thank you, Selena. Yolanda, would you like to go next and share a little bit more? That's okay. We'll circle back to you. Thank you for letting us know that. Jay, are you ready to share more of your story?
Yes. Well, there was 4 different incidents that occurred with me and the child welfare system. So during my first pregnancy, I'd experienced several health issues. With those issues, it came to the point where I've lost 30 pounds within less than 30 days, I lost 30 pounds. After that, my doctor that I was with my prenatal tried everything to get me medical-wise from a doctor's point of view. After that, my mom set me on the bed and said, baby, because I was staying with her at the time, said, baby, I don't know, but try this. And it was a joint, it was marijuana. I tried it. I was able to start eating, holding food down, not throwing up, and gaining the proper weight that I needed. After that, my doctor, of course, asked me if I was able to stop before birthing my child, which I was able to do a month before having her. But I still believe after that, I probably was being surveillanced by the child welfare system. That's when my second pregnancy came about. And once again, I was losing drastic weight. I did what I needed to do. And I also let the hospital be aware of what was going on with me. Once I had them, well, before I had them and while I was on the birthing table, I'm still vomiting. I'm still, having the complications of a pregnancy that a woman can have. At that moment, they brought a CPS worker in there to conversate with me before having my child. At that point, I started getting scared, very emotional, crying, some of everything as I'm on the table about to deliver my baby, and they're trying to ask me questions of if I'm going to be able to take care of my child. After this incident, during this incident, once they let me go home, CPS still came out to my home, and at the time I was staying with my aunt. They came to see if everything was right with the house and the food was in the house, and all I let the lady know is that at this present moment, the only thing I would need help with is housing. At this present moment, I'm not housed in my own space with my children, and I believe I need housing. They gave me a packet, told me they would contact me within 30 days, which they never did. And next thing I know, that case was closed. My second incident was when I was fleeing from my boyfriend, and from the abuse that he was actually giving me at the time. And once I went into hiding. And once I went into hiding, he was locked up, and his family, they called in a false report with CPS. And when they did that, they was only trying to see where I was located with my children. So once they found me, once again, I let them know I'm pregnant with twins now. I have 3 children. They claim I only neglected one. Trying to find out how is that possible. I'm sorry, I am a little nervous. So just
That's okay.
Work
You're
with
doing
me.
really well. Thank you.
But but they did once they seen where I was, and I let them know once again I need housing help. I was pregnant with twins and I had 3 children at the time. The lady told me, she gave me a one piece of paper this time with some housing things, and once again, case closed, no help. During my pregnancy with my twins, I ended up fleeing my abuser, which was the father to those twins. With this third incident, I ended up in a domestic violence shelter to receive help. Once I gave birth to my twins, their father, of course, came to the hospital. At that point, I believe CPS went back to the domestic violence shelter and let them be aware that the abuser came to the birth of the children. So at that moment, I suppose the shelter was no longer willing to help my situation because they must have felt that I was going to allow the abuser to come wherever they was going to give me help. I'm sorry, I'm going back there.
That's okay. It's a lot. We're sharing a lot today. We're taking you all the way back to this trauma, and it hurts.
So while I was in the shelter, the lady told me that she had talked to my children's school teachers. She talked to the domestic shelter people. She had talked to my aunt, and they said, "Oh yes, she's a good parent." Whoop, whoop. But that lady said, "But I'm opening this case, and if anything come through us again, regardless if it's false or not, we're taking your children." Mentally, it took me out of here mentally. I actually shut down, and that social worker had to finish speaking for me at that moment. After that, though, they let me go because I did have somewhere to go, which was a family member's house again. Once again, it was my brother's fiance, child's mother, who was being abused.
Okay.
So she allowed me to come on in. My fourth incident, by this time I am traumatized, and now I'm on my 7th child. This fourth incident happened because they stated that I had no prenatal care for my 2-year-old son. While I was having him, they asked me, "Oh, wow, how did you know when your due date was?" Because I was only a week ahead of my due date that I did give him. And then they said, "Oh, well, he's such a healthy baby. He's, 6 pounds, 9 ounces, biggest single birth child I had." With no help from the prenatal care, because once again, I was afraid. I was traumatized. I was afraid of what, because of the way I had to bring my child in this world to be healthy, I felt that they was going to have a reason to try to take my children again. So with that being said, I did my best to do what I needed to do. And of course, here they come again after birthing the child and said everything, knock, knock, knock at the door, CPS. At this time, I'm in my own place, but now I have 7 children and I know I'm a single mother, paying rent $900 a month. Hey, if it's anything y'all can do for me, I'd be happy if y'all would be able to give me help with housing. I need help with low income housing, please. Once again, I'm not sure if my case is open or closed at this moment.
Absolutely. And as you shared in the beginning, you don't have housing, as I understand.
No, I do not, as of now.
Thank you so much, Jade. Thank you all for sharing all the things that you shared. And Yolanda, I'm just going to check in with you if you're ready to share, but I know you have a big share for us at the end, so we can wait. Do you want to go now or do you want to wait? It's your choice.
I'll say a little something now.
Thank you so much.
I was 17 when I got pregnant, but somebody who I actually really loved, who I thought I was going to spend my life with, 17-year-old kid dreams, Things didn't work out that way. I had to move to another state, and that was hard for me because I had to leave everything behind. I was pregnant, I was scared. I had my sister. It was still hard. I eventually had to go into a program. So, because my sister felt like it would help me because, I had a lot of things I needed help with. And I didn't really like it. I didn't like the idea of programs. I still don't. I really did not like the program. They did not like me. They didn't like how I was as a person. I was very different from all the other girls. I really didn't put up with some of the stuff that they was trying to make me do or how they make me feel. I always spoke about it. I always defended myself. I was 17. I had my baby. 2 months, he was 2 months. I had my baby. I was going through a lot of depression. I was going through a lot of stuff, and they didn't care. They didn't care. They didn't see it. They didn't recognize it. They just judged me and just kept telling me I should do this. I need to do this. I can't do that. Don't tell me what to do. Help me. They didn't really help me. They just judged me. I was going through a lot of emotional problems because, like I said, I left everything behind. I had to move to a new state. So it's like, that was big for me. They called child services on me over my son's medicine. They felt that I was neglecting my son, but I wasn't. We even called the doctor, but they didn't listen. So the child services lady, she didn't feel comfortable with me either. She judged me upon just listening to my story of my past. She asked for my past. I told her my past. She judged me based off my past instead of just noticing what I'm trying to do now. She didn't listen to me when I told her they wasn't helping me. She didn't listen to me. I didn't know anything about the system. I didn't know anything. I was a teenager. I didn't know nothing. I didn't know I was going to set myself up for this, So ever since then, I've been very skeptical about receiving help from anybody. Till this day, I'm still skeptical. Oh, do you want help? We can help you with this. Nah, I'm good. I'm okay. I'm good. I don't need your help. Even when I was going through abusive relationships, nope, can't call the police. They're gonna try to take my child away. They're gonna think I'm neglecting. They think I'm gonna be abused. Nope, can't do it. Can't do it. I had to put up with a lot of abuse and try to get away because I couldn't depend on the system. because their first thing is we gotta call child services because the child's not safe. But what about the parent? So I don't trust the system.
Thank you so much, Yolanda. You all did so beautifully sharing and hearing more of your stories. I can, and I hope others can see how the definitions of neglect were blurred because of the ways that many of the professionals that you called, you went to, you asked for help, centered and were limited in their avenues to be able to help. The help was around mandated reporting, like Selena. There was your social worker was helping you. She also had to report. Investigating that at times, all of the investigations, at times just hearing how you felt judged and under a microscope and probed. And Selena, again, you talked about how they were doing this behind the scenes work and investigation. It almost feels criminal. And managing the lives of you all. Do this, do that. Teresa, you talk about a 60-mile drive in rush hour traffic, 15 minutes late, and couldn't see your daughter. Hearing this, I can't help but to hear, I wish I had a little ticker, one of those little ticker to keep count of the number of times each of you said, I asked for help or help. I wanted help. I needed help, 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 help. You even believe help was on the way and was coming when they knocked on the door, when they said, oh, we'll support you during this really scary time of going to the police station and making a sexual assault report for your daughter. I hear a lot of ways that the system caused harm. Teresa, as I understand it, your oldest daughter is currently not in the home. What is some of the impacts to not getting the help you needed today? And take your time. Take your time.
You're right. My daughter is not in my care today. And it's not because I didn't get custody back of her, because I did. After I was sentenced to 36 months in prison, and I did a large amount of healing work, I got my daughter back. But the trauma of removal, the trauma of sexual assault, the trauma of not getting to see me as her mom for over 2 years, that has led to just an enormous amount of mental health and behavioral health issues. And now here I am today. After counting it up, I came up with 1,441 days that my daughter has been out of my care since the start of my CPS case all the way till today. And she's in a mental health facility because she is suicidal and because she has behavioral health issues. And it is so terrifying for me when things go awry with her to have to reach out to the system to ask for help, because I always feel like that judgment is still there and I'm not going to get the help that I need. And, had she received mental health services at the start of my case and throughout the whole process, had she not been forced to go live with her father, who they transferred legal custody to while I was in prison, who was my abuser and who is an addict and an alcoholic. Had they just taken those things into account, and I don't think we would be where we are today. I don't think that she would not be in my care. I don't think that a mental health facility would be taking care of my daughter today. And unfortunately, there are not enough services out there to help deal with these type of things. I wish I knew what kind of services I need, but if they don't even exist, how do you even know what to ask for?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Teresa. Thank you for sharing. And I know, Yolanda, hearing all of this, had to take a small break, and that's okay. This is a lot. It's a lot for me to listen, and you guys have shared your stories with me. I'm a trained professional, listening and hearing. It's okay if you need to go off camera, get a sip of water, take a break. Anyone listening can see how heavy this is, how much it is taking all of you to share. Thank you so much. Charlene, I'm going to ask you, as I know during your investigation and domestic violence, and when the police came and removed your children, you were a mother of a young Black boy, and had some specific perceptions you wanted to make sure you share with us today. Can you share those now?
Yes. I never really went in detail, but
You can take a little time.
when they took my children that night, even though my cousin or sister had come from New Jersey to New York to take them in her care, she was told to come and see me in the hospital to see how I was doing. Never knew it was a trick, because they actually told her to go see me, while behind her back, they aggressively stormed into my neighbor's home, the police, and they took my children in a police car to take them into the emergency care for child welfare. From that, my son, who was 5 going on to 6 that February, because this happened in January, he has recollection of those flashing lights and police cars and this police on a whole. So every time that he saw police or see the car, he was very fearful. He was very fearful, or fear his life. My problem with that is that this is how things start with our youth, and things that happen to them while they're so young, and how they respond to things that may happen to them. So now if the police come knocking at the door, he would jump, he would be fearful. If he saw them, he would want to run away. And we know the world that we're living in now. We know if a Black boy start running away when the cops go after them, they're only assuming that it's gun, it's drugs or something. They're only assuming. They wouldn't even know that something happened to this child for him to react to the police like that. Because guess what? 5 going on to 6-year-old, he had a bad connection with them. He didn't see them as a protector. He see them as someone coming to take him away. So mentally, he grew up with that in his head, very fearful of them.
Absolutely.
And God knows if he should run from the cops, what they do. Either they're ready to shoot him or arrest him, and then the system start all over again. It just has this cycle. It just has a cycle that we need to break.
Absolutely.
You know, we need to try to, why would you take the children if they were in care of the neighbor? Why did you just assume that there was something wrong with me and that I couldn't take care of my kids? Why would you charge me with neglect because somebody beat me up? I was abused, that I engaged in domestic violence. Because at the end of that's what they charged me with. Failure to protect, that I was a neglectful mom because I engaged in domestic violence. And that's how they took it. And it has all these other effects that goes with it when your children are removed from your care. And really and truly, it's the system, because it's biased. They took my children because of the neighborhood I lived in. I can honestly say they took my children because I was Black, or I'm an immigrant Black woman. Because I had no history in the system. I was naive to the system. And it gave all this trickling effect. So at this point, we're still having a conversation. It's really, the system really, I think domestic violence on a whole is very sensitive. So I think the system is so big that it really doesn't really take its time to really try to have a connection with family, or to provide what is best for the family, both the mom, the children, and probably even the father. like a
Absolutely.
family. They have no time to map that out. The biggest thing, she was involved in the domestic violence, yanked the kids away. And how is that helping? How are
Absolutely.
they balancing the harm? And that's my biggest concern, because until now they're still doing it because the system is moving so slowly in
Absolutely.
correcting that. And it's not good for our children because they are the future.
Absolutely. And I know so many of you today, even in your introductions, you shared how you're a parent advocate and you're doing all different types of work to make change. Charlene, I want you to talk about what you did with what happened to you in terms of the class action lawsuit and the things that
So
happened that should have created the change from 22
that, yeah,
years ago.
22 years, 2.2 decades ago.
Wow.
So what happened, when I went through the whole system, the child welfare system, domestic violence, the homelessness, being locked up, the whole thing that let me through, it made me really think of the system, how bad it is. And I said I did nothing wrong. And every time I walked or went into the subway, there were signs saying what you should do, if you call for help, what you should do, these steps. And I took all the steps and I could not understand. However, when I decided, I say, all right, I gotta get this corrected. And people in my neighborhood tell me, don't even bother, just comply with what they're doing and get out of it. As a matter of fact, they were saying I should accept the blame, and after 6 months or so, you get your kids back or whatever you. But I did nothing wrong, so I did not proceed that way. However, what I did do is I did get an attorney who looked at my case. She represented me in family court. And then I went to a bigger group who, after my case was dismissed with child welfare, they started a lawsuit. And of course, many women had similar stories. Many women were going through the same thing I was going. It was nothing new. And until today, I can see that it's still happening. And that's what the child welfare was about, really was to unite domestic violence and child welfare together, let they understand the dynamics of domestic violence and how you removing children, how it's bringing more harm to the children than it's helping them. And that's the premise of the lawsuit. I had many women who had the same problem who joined on the suit. That's why it became a class action lawsuit. And it was really, really, really just to remedy this thing of balancing the harms with the children and domestic violence and child welfare, getting them together, getting them to understand the dynamics of domestic violence, providing the services that the woman or the family need to be in a better position. And that's what the premise of the lawsuit was. But I see that the system still is not doing that.
Absolutely.
And that saddens me.
If someone wanted to look up that lawsuit and the lawsuit was won, changes, or policy were changed. If they wanted to look that up, what would they look up? How would they search it?
Well, they could search it by my name, Charlie Nicholson, or you could search by Nicholson versus Capetta or Nicholson versus Williams.
Okay, thank you, Charlene. As I'm listening, I would be lying if I didn't say I wasn't sitting here controlling even my own emotions as you all were sharing so beautifully. And I know I thank you over and over again, and I'm going to continue to thank you today for sharing so fully of yourselves. Being a licensed mental health counselor and having my own experiences in the child welfare system, I can imagine what these encounters, some of the ways in which you were threatened of losing your children, perhaps even looked at, right? Like I think Yolanda and Jay and some of you all referenced how you were, maybe even the tone of voice is used, and the ways they looked at you, they just the way they looked at you during this time. It must have brought up lots of feelings. And one of the goals for me today was because we never link back to that. I wanted people to know how you feel. And so I'm going to ask each of you to share 3 words of how you felt during your encounters with the child welfare system, the people you asked for help. I know some of you have 2 and 3 and 4 incidents, and that might have happened at, you had different feelings at different times. And so you can even share it from that perspective. The first time I felt this, the second time I felt that, but I'm asking you to keep it to maybe 3 words if you can. So just share 3 words. I felt, okay. Jay, will you go? Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead. Thank you. No.
I felt very annoyed. I was very disappointed. I guess because I was naive to a system. I felt helpless.
Absolutely. Thank you. Jay, how did you feel?
For one, I was traumatized. So I don't think that's a feeling. That was an actual thing that happened.
Yeah.
But I believe I felt in those moments, like my first incident with him, it was very awkward and weird because once again, I was birthing a child and they wanted to talk to me. So that moment, I was really angry. I was angered. That's what I felt the first time. I was angered. My second encounter, very annoyed because it was a lie, just to find out where we were. The third incident of them coming, oh Jesus Lord, I was about to be mentally ill. I felt as if helpless. I felt helpless.
Absolutely. How do you feel now? You share with us that you bravely share with us that you're homeless.
So currently I feel as if I try to seek the help that I know I need, once again, where they're going to help me at. This is the same problem I had since they ever bumped into my life. And when my mom told me when I was younger, oh, once CPS get in your life, it's hard to get them out. I felt like, why should it be hard to get out when they're supposed to be helping the family? So making sure we're protected, or the children. So therefore making sure that the parent is capable of doing what they need to do. And me already asking, I feel like housing. I need help with housing.
So still helpless, really.
I'm still feel helpless. And I'm trying to hang on to my mental health. I'm really trying to hang on to it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Yolanda, can you go next? Just 3 words of how you felt.
Well, in all the situations that I've been dealing with that had to do with having the police called to my house numerous of times and them getting to know my name, my face, my address all the time, and their little side remarks, and having to deal with child services, different workers, and not understanding and just want to push you off, label you, hurry up, and just whatever. I feel disrespected. I feel disrespected, angry. And it's like, I have so many words to want to add in, but most of just hurt.
Yeah, we can hear that.
I have so many words, but hurt, disrespected, and angry.
Thank you. Teresa, would you like to go next? I see you unmuting.
Yeah. So my first encounter with child protection was extremely traumatic, and it's emotional to put your finger on your feelings because they're painful. But I felt judged, demoralized, worthless. I felt absolutely worthless as a mom. The second time I had an encounter with CPS was the day after I gave birth to my second child, and they came and visited me on my birthing bed, and was asking all kinds of questions, you know, because I had to voluntarily sign over custody of my first daughter. So what, you know, what made me think that I could care for my second child? Thankfully, that case never opened, and the investigation didn't go anywhere. But again, to be visited the day after I gave birth was so terrifying and hurtful. And again, I felt judged and alone.
Absolutely. Thank you, Teresa. Selena, will you share? You were 17 and you had turned 18 a month later. How did you feel?
Yeah. Well, I was a minor at the time. So I was, the three words that I can describe this, the encounter with DCFS was, I can say angry, silence, and gaslighted. And I know for those that don't know what that is, or you do know what that is, I felt like that is because they start telling you that, you know, like reminding you or just telling you that you did wrong so many times that you almost start to believe it. Or learn you had to accept it because you have no choice. And that's why I put silence, because I felt as I was silenced, because I felt like maybe I had no choice but to comply and accept that I was neglectful, but I wasn't. And that's why I am today, and I'm using my voice because I know I didn't do wrong. And I know that day when I got that letter, I said, you know what, I'm not gonna accept this. I know I'm not neglectful. I'm a great mother, and I'm not gonna accept this just because they believe that, because that's not what really happened. And so this is why I think all of us are here today, is to for justice.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you all for sharing how you feel. I know I pushed some buttons. I stirred the pot. I made you feel. But I appreciate that. I wanted them to see how honestly and openly you shared, because I think it echoes the openness of what each of you showed up with when you were being investigated. You were open, you were honest, you asked for help, you called the police. I wonder if your experiences, you were asked, how do you feel? We asked about where are you with your mental health? We actually centered help in your experiences. You as a parent, you as a survivor would have made a difference if we had conversations like this. Pause, let's talk. Let me listen to you, right? Yolanda, I know you agreed to round out our dialogue and share so much of yourself, a little piece of your soul. And we're going to ask you to share that now. As everyone listens to Yolanda share more of herself in the ways we all have been listening and seeing, how everyone has been sharing, I want you to think about the stories of these Black and brown mothers. I almost said mamas, because that's what I say. These Black and brown mamas from New York, Minnesota, Chicago, Boston, Detroit, that has spanned 20 years, how they've merged, how they're intermingled, how even after a class action lawsuit requiring change, we're still here. Yolanda, will you share with us now? And take your time.
Sure. I was in the system when I was a baby, was taken from my biological parents. My mom had problems, and so did my dad. They, as the system, the same system that's been separating families for years, offered no type of help from my parents. And that's how the problems began. I was in the system, then got adopted by my foster mom, who I hold dear. Never knew I got adopted until I got older. As I got older, I ended up getting pregnant and being a teen mom. moving to a new state with my sister, feeling depressed and sad, but you couldn't tell. I was wearing a mask. I gave birth to my baby, then moved into this teen program. I thought I wasn't going to have worries. You're right. This was just starting. These staff members judged me. They never liked me. Nobody would listen or help me. Being a young mom, I knew it was going to be hard. They didn't like me because I was different. They didn't realize my feelings I kept hidden. Being a young new mom, I didn't know what to do. Depressed and vulnerable, postpartum I had, didn't have a clue. Me yelling, me crying, didn't know it was going to lead the staff to being afraid that I would hurt my baby boy in any way. They didn't trust my judgment when it came to my baby's medicine, even after we spoke to the doctor and she was on my side. They even agreed, they even argued with her. I couldn't believe my eyes. So the doctor just told me they're not listening and just do as they say. It was the control for me that they was doing that had me in my brain. And even after all this, spoke to the doctor who told them my judgment was okay, still had filed a 51A for neglect. Baffled I was. That program was supposed to help young mothers, but they failed to recognize postpartum and depression. When I spoke to child services worker, this is another one. When I spoke to child services worker, she is another one who judged me and made it clear that I was unfit to have my baby boy near because of her fear. Instead of trying to figure me out and understand me, to help me and care, she already made her decision, which it was unfair. She gave me two choices to choose from, my sister or foster care for the placement of my son. I chose my sister and not foster care because I didn't trust them. And since the decision for my son to not be in my care, I started to rebel. And that's when my problems began mentally, because deep down, I was defeated, hurt, dead inside, was thinking about suicide. As I got older, I had the need to fill this void inside, this empty piece in my heart. And because I didn't heal, I ended up in abusive relationships, mentally and physically in so many ways. I couldn't speak, I was afraid, drowning with doubt and despair, with the path to take to set myself free. And fear of rejection of the help I seek overwhelms me. When we go through this, what are we supposed to do? Not only us women, but men do too. Who will help us with these trials and tribulations of this abuse that's hurting not only mentally, but physically too? The pain and horror of defeat, the dreading thought of not breaking free, the thought of dying in misery. Do you understand that feeling? That's the feeling we suffered emotionally every day. Do you understand the feeling of wanting help, to be saved, feel like you don't even matter? Or how about when you call for the help from the police officers, you hear the signs and saying, finally, a relief, passing over, just to talk to the cops, just to see their face like they didn't want to be here. Eye rolls we get, possibly thinking, oh, we got another one, labeled already. Then you explain to the officers the problem. Things come to mind. We had to file a 51A. Why? Because it's protocol. Like what? I called for help because I'm scared. I'm hurting. Help me. My child is safe. It's me who isn't. What's worse is when the abusers leave, they can't do anything unless he's there. Thankfully, some cops care, but most don't even really care. Some fail to see the signs. They tell us to calm down. But how? When we are scared, or you trying to take our children away and you're not protecting us. Sometimes we have to find our way to survive, plan to escape, break free. Some of us women and men don't even make it. Most of us die. Most of us are traumatized and seek therapy. Don't you see the policy needs to change? If not, we're all unsafe, and the blood will be shed on your policy you refuse to change.
Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Yolanda. Would anyone else like to thank Yolanda for?
Thank you, Yolanda.
I do. You spoke it. You spoke it, and that's the truth. That's the truth.
Yeah.
I feel those words for sure.
Thank you, Yolanda. That was great. That captured it.
Thank you.
Thank you,
That was
Yolanda.
absolutely profound and spot on for every one of us who've ever had to struggle with domestic violence and child welfare. And the pain is so real. It's hard to be professional when there's just that those emotions are so raw. So thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely. This is professional. This is our humanity should not rob us from telling our stories, right? Or be dismissed from telling our stories or being on a panel. So I thank all of you for, Yolanda labeled her piece as a little piece of my soul, but you all have bared a little piece of your soul. We see it, we hear you, at least I do. Thank you, Yolanda, again for bearing your soul and in the way that captures so many of the other mothers' experiences and encounters. It's uncanny. Some people would think that you had heard all their stories before you put that together, but
Right.
you hadn't, right?
Right.
No.
Absolutely.
You hadn't. I want to end our dialogue today with all of you sharing what made you decide to be so vulnerable, to bare your souls, to be spotlighted in this way and show your faces, show your pain, even while still experiencing it, still needing help, some of you. Who would like to begin? Why did you decide to participate?
I
can start.
decided.
Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead, Charlene.
You sure, Selena?
Go ahead.
Okay. I decided first, I was like so appalled that the conversation is still the same after 20 plus years. And when I started, there were many people who were doing this work before. I got into it because of the domestic violence and the child welfare, and the harm was already done to me. So this was my way of doing it to help other families, other mothers, other children to get right, to highlight what happened to me, to get that needed help that the family need, for caseworkers, child protective workers to be more sensitive to mothers, for them to not judge or prejudge you before actually even knowing you, not to judge you or say what you did because of the color of your skin or the neighborhood you lived in. And yes, my neighbor would truly believe that nothing would happen. Like if I did this lawsuit with ludicrous, like it would never happen, because that's what the community is used to. Like, just listen to what the system say, go and get out of it. You know, you're holding the blade. So for me, no, let me fight, because you already did the worst to me. You did the worst that you could do to me. You took my children away from me at such tender years. And that is, for many of you don't know, I was not with my mom when I 2 years old. She had immigrated and left me by myself as a girl child. And I missed that. So for me, in my head, growing my own children, I want to always be with them. So just imagine the pain that I suffered when they come and yank them away from me without my permission, without my knowledge. They not even having a conversation with me, not knowing me, not trying to understand my story, not trying to help me, not trying to keep the families together. Yes. So I put that pain to power.
That's right.
Hopefully, hoping that there would be a change and that other families would not go through and suffer the pain that I did.
Thank you,
And
Charlene.
yes, we're still fighting the good fight.
Yeah, thank you, Charlene. Who would like to go next? Why did you decide to lend your voice?
Thank you, Charlene. That was powerful. I think we all feel the same. I'm sorry, I cut you off.
No, go.
I think, yeah, we're all in here trying to, make our voices heard, because we don't want this to happen to anyone else. And that's why I'm here today. I really don't want anyone to go through this, and I don't wish this on my worst enemy. That's how hard it is. And to me, like Yolanda's poem, if if women or people who suffer domestic violence die, it's because they're silent. They're scared to speak up. And many times we don't understand what they go through after when they leave these relationships, and it can be harder. And just to have this on top of recovering and healing from being abused, now you have to face a system that takes your children. If we're afraid to speak, it's because we don't want our kids taken away. And that's why I'm here today, because the system needs to be of healing and not re-victimize the survivors again. And thank you, Charlene. It was very powerful, and I'm thankful to be here again.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Selena. Who would like to share? Why did you decide to lend your voice?
I can
Jay.
go.
Thank you.
I want to thank Charlene, and I want to thank Selena, and I want to thank Teresa and all the rest of my panelists. To Yolanda, especially you, because you hit it right on the money once again with that poem. Yes. But I'm here today because this little bit of piece of my life that y'all get to view and see and hear, I'm praying it helps with the things that do need to be changed. I can't picture a moment of my children being taken from me. So for the panelists that have to go through that and still going through it today, I lend y'all my love as well and my support to y'all, because it is very hard. Mentally, I would have lost it if they would have done that. And by the grace of God, it have not happened. And I pray to God it won't ever happen. And that's why I'm here today, to make sure things change. Certain ways that CPS go about it, or like they say when the cops come to see what's going on with the domestic violence, stop prejudging. That hurts more than anything when we're not being listened to, because each individual is just that. It's an individual. It's different. Of course, you can have the similarities, but it is different for each individual. You never know what their past was. So today, I want our voices, once again, to be heard, to let it ring out to these policy makers and to hear us. Don't just go with the outskirts of it all.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Teresa, do you want to share? Why are you here today?
Yeah, I mean, there's many reasons, I guess, why I continue to show up. I've never really had the opportunity to share my story in this capacity, nor has the emotion hit me in the many times in the past that I've shared bits and pieces. I'm so used to sharing in platforms about being in recovery or what brought me to my addiction, but never in the capacity that we're in today about, what really happened during my case. And it's been emotional. It's been emotional to not only hear me tell my story out loud, but also to hear others' stories. I work with women every day in the child welfare system to help them try to get their kids back, and they don't have a voice. Our voices are ripped from us the minute CPS steps into our lives. And if I don't continue to show up in this form of this capacity to share my story, in hopes that it'll bring some change in the future, then the women that I work with have no hope. And when my baby girl was born, I named her Hope. And I never knew the significance of her name
And I never knew how powerful of a presence she would be in my life. She gave me hope for my future. And that's why I'm able to sit here in front of everyone today with over 6.5 years of sobriety and over 10 years of being a survivor of domestic violence with her father, and why I'm able to share my voice for everyone that comes after me and for those that came before me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Teresa. Thank you. Yolanda, would you like to share a couple of words of what made you share that beautiful poem and so much of yourself and lend your voice today?
Well, for starters, I feel like God knew what I wanted to do. God knew that I wanted to be a voice and I wanted to do something. God knows I want to help and I like to help, especially when there's injustice going around. I want to speak. I want to fight back. Basically, let's say I want to get my revenge because they messed up. They messed up. They messed up. And I want to fight back because now that I have my voice, now that I have a voice, I'm going to say something. They're wrong. You're messed up. And it's about to be a wrap. That's how I feel. They wrong. They don't know what they put me and other women through mentally. I'm still scarred. I'm 33 and I'm still scarred.
We hear you.
I'm still scarred. It's to the point that, you have to teach your children certain things because we know how they are. They want to get in the nitty gritty, trying to figure out some stuff like, what's going on? What's tell us stuff like, no, get out of my life, get out of my face, get out of my business. Since you're not really trying to help us, you're just trying to take our kids. You really don't care. Whatever gives you our money, right? Whatever gives you profit. No,
I hear you.
That's why I'm here, because I want to help out, be a voice, and let others, even younger women who are being mothers early, be aware. Something that I was never aware about. I never knew anything about the system of anything until that situation happened. And yes, I was mind blown. And I'd rather be there to help others not experience what I've been through and other women been through, because that's painful and that's hurt. And it's traumatizing for women and the children too, because you don't know what the effects is in the long run turns out to be. You never know.
You never know. You never know. Your voices helps more people know. Your voices, the pain, the energy, the authenticity, the beautiful ways you showed up today and bared so much of your soul. Took us back 22 years and then brought us all the way to the future. We've crossed cities, we've crossed ethnicities and cultures. There's a lot of the same. So thank you, Jay, Yolanda, Felina, Teresa, and Charlene for sharing with us today, for letting us know why you wanted to center your experiences is to create change. We would all like to also thank our audience for really challenging yourselves today to hear these mothers and our dialogue. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all. Thank you, Patrice, for holding us all with such grace and such skill. Much appreciated. And we're wrapping up now. I'm just reminded in this session of, Judith Herman, guru of trauma, said the ordinary response to atrocity is to banish it from our consciousness, right? So to deny, right? To push it down and push it away. And what we witnessed today is the power of speaking truth, the power of sitting and witnessing. That's healing, right? Justice is truth. Justice is also healing that we've experienced today. So we witness, and as we go on with the rest of our days, I encourage you to even put your hand over your chest, to breathe, to send a love and appreciation and healing to our brave and wonderful panelists. Please don't forget to join us again on October 27th at 2 p.m. We look forward to hearing from our policy partners And thank you all for being with us. And again, much love and healing appreciation to our amazing panel this afternoon. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.